Hi everyone, thank you so much for logging in this morning. Today we're going to continue with lesson 13. We're going to cover chapter 11 and 12 of Fever 1793. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, you did have assessment 12A open up yesterday at 9 a.m. and it will close Wednesday, so tomorrow at 11:59. So make sure that you get that done. If you have any questions, make sure you message me. And make sure that you're keeping up with your reading. So by the end of today, you should be in chapter 13 on Fever 1793. So far on An American Plague, we're still stalling on that one for a little bit. Just make sure you're in chapter 4 by the time we carry on with it. So our focusing question is, what are the effects of the unfolding crisis of Philadelphia and its citizens? And our content framing question is, reveal. What does a deeper exploration of Maddie's characterization and response to problems reveal in chapter 11 and chapter 12 of Fever 1793? So we're going to focus on what is Maddie going through. As we know, the novel is written in Maddie's personal, first person experience. So we want to know what are these chapters revealing about her. So I'm going to just review quick summaries of chapter 11 and 12 so we can all be in the same page and we can know what's going on. So at this point, if you remember, the mother had started getting sick, and then they had the fake doctor show up and check her out, and he said she didn't have the yellow fever. But then in chapter 10, a real doctor goes and checks the mom, and he verifies that the mom indeed does have the yellow fever. So then Grandpa makes the decision that Maddie and him need to go to the country so they can stay away from the pandemic. So Grandpa and Maddie decide to leave the country, and they hop on a wagon with a farmer and they head out of the city. And then the grandpa starts having like a coughing fit, so he starts coughing and coughing, and he's kind of just playing it off. The farmer does look a little bit concerned that he might be sick, but the grandpa's just saying, "Oh, I caught a some kind of summer cough, and like I'm fine." So it kind of calms down, so they just kind of move on from that. And then Grandpa's just talking with Maddie, and he's just reviewing the three fundamentals of solidarity. So we don't know what solidarity means. It means just being in the same page, being together, helping each other out. And he said that the three fundamentals of solidarity is sturdy boots, a full stomach, and a good night's sleep. So those are the three things that are going to help you succeed, that are going to help you get through things. So as the wagon is moving on, Maddie kind of falls asleep, and then she wakes up to the wagon being stopped by four men on horses, and they're armed with muskets. So they're sent by the government, by the town council in Pembroke, which is an area where they're traveling to, and they're there to block off people from entering the area if they're sick. So they want to limit the amount of people that are sick coming in, so they stop them. And they have a doctor with them, and he's examining the passengers, and everyone in the wagon passes the test except for grandfather, because like I mentioned earlier, he had a coughing fit, and then again it happens again, which is just their luck. So since they see him coughing, they're like, no, he's sick, so they don't let him continue. So the doctor demands for them to return to the city because the grandpa seems to be sick, and the farmer and his family is also in the wagon, and they say that they're healthy, so there should be no reason why they need to stop or return. And the doctor says, "Yeah, you're right. You're fine. So you're able to pass through." So when it comes down to it, Maddie and the grandpa protest because the grandpa's not gonna let her leave by herself, and it's not going to. And the farmer doesn't want to return, so they're just kind of stuck in a really tough situation. And the leader of the group just tells them that they need to take care of their own. So they pretty much say, "Too bad. Like Grandpa and Maddie have to stay behind. Like that's their problem." And Maddie and her grandfather are abandoned in the middle of the countryside. So that's a really difficult situation for a child to be in, and also like an elderly person. So they're caught in this countryside, and they're just abandoned there. So let's review this quote that is presented in page 83. "I'm fine, child. I can wait until we get to the farm. I seem to have contracted a summer gripe." Okay, so what is the effect of grandfather using the word summer gripe instead of one of the others? So they've been using a lot of language throughout the book. They've described the yellow fever as fever, the epidemic, the plague, illness. So why didn't he use that word to describe his cough or like what how sick he's feeling? And the reason why is because maybe he's trying to play it off. Maybe he doesn't want to come to terms with it, that he might be sick, or he doesn't want to scare Maddie because her mom's already sick. And he's just trying to protect her or trying to get through, or he's just neglecting the fact that he might be sick. So the reason why he uses this summer gripe to describe his cough is so he won't alarm others and he won't alarm Maddie and he won't seem more sick than he possibly might be. So now we're moving on to summary of chapter 12. So now they're stuck in the countryside and the grandpa's kind of stuck with a case of chills, so that the grandpa's kind of deteriorating, getting sick faster, and he stops to rest under a chestnut tree. And meanwhile, Maddie is making a plan of action, so she's trying to figure out how can I help him, how can we survive this, right? So it's already showing characteristics of how smart she is and how she has survival skills, and she's trying to think outside the box that many kids her age might not have thought about in that moment. So then she starts to search for water and follows a line of willow trees to a small stream. So she's following a small stream, and they call it an old soldier's trick. So you remember the grandpa mentions that he used to be a soldier. So I guess like all those years that she's been raised with him have really gone to her benefit, because now she knows where like small things, survival skills that are going to help her in the situation. So after filling out the canteen with water, she goes in search of food. So she collects some fruit with the plan to return to grandfather, who he said was going to catch a rabbit for them to eat. So then she returns to the grandpa and they share the water and the berries, and he's still kind of feverish, so he's getting a fever, and his eyes are in yellow. So if you remember, one of the symptoms that shows that they're sick is that their eyes are yellow. But his eyes aren't, so they're not really sure if he's sick with the yellow fever yet. And then he again talks about just a summer gripe, she thinks. So she's trying to convince herself, oh, it's not it. He's fine. He's just getting something like a small flu, a small gripe, right? So the grandfather starts blaming himself for the situation, calling himself a stubborn old fool. So, at this point, they're very desperate. They're in a very stressful situation. So the grandpa feels bad because if he wouldn't have been coughing, then they would have let them get through and they would have been fine. And he just feels bad because he got Maddie stuck in the situation. So as he's speaking, he seems to be drifting in and out of consciousness. So in and out of consciousness means that he's not really speaking accurately anymore. So he might have a fever, so he might be, not all there, and he's just not really making a lot of sense. And at that point he calls Matilda captain. Okay, so he's already like kind of calling her different names and like just not making a lot of sense. So that's where chapter 12 ends up. And now we're gonna review the following question: how does Anderson, so Anderson's the author of Fever 1793, how does her decision to write the novel from Maddie's first person point of view? So remember, when it's a first person point of view, is I, me. So if I were to say that I'm going to the store, that's in my first person point of view. So I am going to the store. And the novel is written from her first person point of view. So how does this affect your understanding of the crisis and people's response to it? So being able to understand the book from Maddie's perspective helps us understand what it feels like to be turned away from a town and left in the side of the road. So she's letting us know, her emotions, what her thinking process is, what she's planning to do to survive. It helps us sympathize with Maddie and see how resourceful she had to be. So again, it shows how she's able to think about the stream and getting water and getting fruits and just remembering how to get back to her grandpa. So she's showing a lot of resourceful skills. And it also helps us understand more about Maddie's perspective other than the other characters. So in this point, it lets us just know the way that a teenager feels under this pandemic and like how she's dealing with things, and it helps us understand a little bit more of how she's feeling and how she's processing everything. So that's a pretty neat thing. um so that's all I have for lesson 13. I do want to review a little bit of your homework. So you don't have anything major. You do have an exit ticket for today's class. Every exit ticket that you do, I will start giving you extra, maybe 5 to 10 extra points daily. So make sure that you're keeping up with your exit tickets. There, you can find them in the attendance form. So the link is on my post on the general page, and it's also on the same page where you found the link for the video. Make sure that you complete the exit tickets. You have to answer 2 questions. Make sure you're answering in complete sentences, and they're reviewing the same things we just talked about. Also, make sure that you're keeping up with the chapters. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you should be in chapter 13 by Wednesday on Fever 1793. I don't know. I know that you might think we're moving a little bit fast, but the chapters are not long. There should be no reason why you're not keeping up with them. And then An American Plague, for now, we're not talking about it, but we will later on this week. So just make sure that you're in chapter 4 of An American Plague by the time we start talking about it. And again, the assessment 12A, which is a test grade, opened up yesterday and it closes on Wednesday at 11:59. So just make sure that you're keeping up with that stuff and you should be fine. Make sure that if you have any questions about your grade or any questions about the lesson or anything that you need help with, you reach out to me and I'm more than happy to help you out. So I hope everyone has a wonderful day and let me know if you need any help. Bye.